Let me talk a little bit about the process that we'll use today. Very similar. This is not a debate. This is really more of a question and answer process for the candidates. We'll begin with opening statements that the candidates provide. During those statements, we ask them to tell a little bit about themselves and why they're running for office. We need to know who these folks are, so they'll do that. Then we will start questions, the question round. We have 8 questions that have been submitted by members of the chamber and reviewed by the executive committee that will be presented to you. Just a few minutes ago, these individuals drew numbers. And so we will go in that order, and Robert's got that order for me so we don't get it wrong. And each time we do another question, we will start with who gets the first question first. So number 1 gets the first one. I think, Bob, you were number 1, correct? So for the first question, you'll do the first response, and then for the second question, you'll do the last response. And we'll rotate through that for the 8 questions to keep it even. We will have, the individuals will have 3 minutes, or excuse me, yes, 3 minutes each to, 2 minutes each, Robert, make sure we got it. 2 minutes. 2 minutes each to respond. It's very fast with 8 questions and 4 candidates. You can do the math. We've got a lot of folks to respond to. And so 2 minutes each we ask you. And as I said, Bob will wave when you hit a point about a minute ahead of time so you know when to close down. We will start that process right now. And Bob, I'm going to turn this over to Bob, to you to go ahead and do your opening comments if you would, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you. Gene, I want to thank you and the Chamber for putting this together. I really appreciate that. I want to thank everybody for being here today. It's important to us to be running for office, but also it's important to have people out there that are real serious about this and focusing on these elections. So I want to thank you. My name is Bob Mitchell. I'm a conservative candidate for Texas District 11. I believe in secure borders, the sanctity of life, and I oppose CRT in our schools. I'd like to tell you a few things about my platform, my commitment to you, and how I'm going to perform this position. First, there are 3 interrelated parts of my platform: education for all Texans, an economy that benefits all our Texans, and the safety and security of all of our Texans. My pledge to you on education: if I'm elected, I'll continue the historic work that Senator Larry Taylor did in helping with school finance, accountability, and quality. I have a successful track record of engagement with the superintendents of all of our school districts as my current role as president of the Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership. I've led many initiatives in career education, specifically in aerospace, maritime, petrochemical, healthcare, and all parts of that curriculum are involved in the high schools today, the junior colleges, the community colleges, and higher ed. My pledge to you on the economy: if I'm elected, I'll bring my decades of economic development and business experience to Austin to create jobs and keep Texas as the number one location to do business. For example, in the last 5 years, I've been working with the Houston Airport System to create the spaceport, along with other industries, and created over 5,000 jobs. But just last year alone, in the Houston Spaceport, we were able to announce 3 big projects. Those projects will bring 550,000 square feet of new office and manufacturing space and over 2,000 jobs within the next 18 to 24 months. My pledge on safety and security: if I'm elected, I'll continue to expand my commitment to building the coastal spine to protect your lives and the livelihood of all our community. I've been leading this process for 14 years, and I've just recently appointed by Governor Abbott as one of the board of directors. I'll continue to expand my commitment to the military and first responders, as seen by my leadership in creating the Joint Reserve Base at Ellington Field, where within 10 years we went from having 300 troops on any given weekend in 2 branches of the military to today there's over 6,000 troops, and every single branch of the military is there. And that includes an additional $250 million in capital investment. It also means that the drones that are flown over in Afghanistan and Iraq, that when you hear the terrorist that is shot, is actually done right out of Ellington Field in this region. So why vote for me? I'm a conservative candidate who grew up the hard way, from foster homes to living my own at 15 to a CEO. I've lived the American bedrock values. We all believe in hard work, family, freedom, and capitalism. I've worked with our elected officials in Austin and in Washington to solve the business and quality of life issues that we all face. It's true that I'm not a party insider. I am not a professional politician, but what that really means is that I'm your candidate. We all have lived through natural and man-made disasters, economic downturns, crime.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Bianca.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Bianca Gracia, and I'm running for Texas Senate here in District 11 in your district. You know, I don't prepare speeches. I am president of Latinos for Trump, formed an organization back in 2018. In 2016, actually got hired on by the Republican Party of Texas to be the Hispanic Engagement Director. My grassroots activism and my work speaks for itself. But what do I bring to the table to the business community? So last night I was telling people, I said, you know, I'm a stay-home mom. That's a trick thing. I'm not really a stay-home mom. I say I'm a stay-home mom, but I do a lot of things. And so I have actually opened up my own business. And during the Obama years, I found out very quickly why I could not get ahead. My husband is a sergeant with the HPD department, and he's over HATRA, which is Human Trafficking Task Force. And so as a, you know, stay-home mom, I homeschool my children. And one of the things is that, you know, for us Hispanics in our culture, we find things, right? We're entrepreneurs by heart. We find things. We have a work ethic like no other. And so, you know, I'll give you a testimony. I'm known as a community activist in my community. I've done everything from PTO to soccer mom, football mom, everything. Everybody's always asking me, Bianca, you know, do this. They always come to me. People across the country come to me and say, oh, if you want anything done in Texas, you go to Bianca. And I'm like, who keeps saying these things? Because my track record speaks for itself. Well, one of the things is when I became a soccer mom, I got on the board because they needed help. So this is how I know business. So their website was completely a mess. You couldn't find anything. So I made it a point to say, you know, I'm going to do the website. So I called a dear friend and I'm like, hey, I need you to help me with a website. He says, Bianca, I can't teach you what I've learned in 5 years. I said, are you kidding me? I'm just asking you to help me with a website. So for 2 weeks, I sat and learned how to build websites. Okay? And so when I built that website, every single president in the whole coastal region called my president and said, who built that website? We need to hire them. It's like, stay home mom. The Dynamos came out and offered me 2 jobs in the marketing department and said, who built that website? Well, now I build websites, actually, for small businesses in our community. Repo companies, I got, you know, treat companies. I got all kinds of landscaping companies. I build websites, so I understand small business. Small business is the fabric of our community. And that's why I bring flavor to this race, because I'm a many jack of trades. I know how to do many things, but I do understand the business community. And I will tell you something, I have vowed to never let the government come after our faith, never let the government come after our families, and never let the government come after our freedoms. And never again will they shut down our businesses, mask us, tell us to go home, and not put food on the table. That's my message to you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Robin Armstrong, and I guess I'm kind of the hometown boy running for state senate, so I'd love to be your next state senator. I'd love to have all of your support. So I grew up in Lamarck, Texas, and I went to Lamarck High School. I was born at Mainland Medical Center Hospital, which used to be county when I was born there 52 years ago. And so I grew up in this area. Graduated Lamarck High School. I can remember playing football against Ball High School. We played against Patrick Bates. Can think about it, I was a wide receiver, and Patrick Bates, who went on to play for the Oakland Raiders, actually was the safety. So he's 6'3", 220 pounds, kind of scary. And so I went to high school, went away to A&M. Whoop. Texas A&M Aggie. I went away to A&M for 4 years, came back, went to medical school in Galveston, and did residency in Galveston as well. Went on to start my practice in the hospital where I was born, at Mainland Medical Center. Started with 2 physicians. Currently, I'm the owner of Armstrong Medical Group. We've grown that up to 20-plus physicians, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants. So we've grown our business significantly over the last few years. It's just been an honor to serve in this community. I believe that if you want to be in a leadership position, I believe you first should serve. And so I've served at every avenue in this district, lived in this district for 48 years, served in this district in ministry. I've gone to Galveston County Jail Ministry. I've worked ministry in Texas City jails. I've actually gone on some missionary journeys to Africa as well. between medical school and residency. And so I've served in this district politically. I've been a precinct chair. I've been an SRAC. I've represented this district in the State Republican Executive Committee. So I've done a lot of party activities, currently on the Republican National Committee, and served on that committee to fight for election reform and make sure we're educating our kids properly. And so I've also served medically as well, taking care of thousands of patients in this district. We have great contracts in the district, and so it's just been an honor to serve. So I've served politically, I've served medically, I've served business-wise, and I've also served in ministry as well in this community. And so I've lived in this community all my life. Now I desire to serve as your next state senator. I believe that those experiences have put me in the best position to be able to leverage that to serve everyone in this community, to serve the business interests, to serve the people of this community, because I know the people in this community. I've lived in Galveston, I've lived in Texas City, I've lived in Lamarck, I've lived in Dickinson, I've lived in Lake City, I currently live in Friendswood. So I've lived in just about every city in this county, and I've served this entire district. And so I would love and be honored to serve you as your next state senator as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is someone's phone.
Well, it was there.
Somebody's phone. I don't know. Lost and found. My name is Mays Middleton. I'm running to be your next state senator. Macy and I are blessed to have 4 little ones at home, Connor, Christian, Matthew, and our newest, Martha Ann, our first girl. I'm a girl dad now. I'm in trouble. A lot of trouble, actually. But if that's not our daily reminder of what we're fighting for here, and it is a real fight for conservative values in Austin. I'm always ranked as one of the top 10 most conservative members in the Texas House. In fact, Young Conservatives of Texas ranked me as number 1 out of 150, and I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of President Donald Trump because of my principles, and he said my voting record on conservative issues was second to none. And I run towards the toughest of fights. That's how I got elected to the House to begin with. I knocked on 6,000 doors, earned every vote against an incumbent who frankly wasn't living up to his conservative promises, because we know at the end of the day, when good people do nothing, evil wins. And our country is under attack. We know Joe Biden has a plan to destroy America. He wants to take God out of government. He wants to take us from a nation of equality of opportunity, like our founders intended, to equality of outcome, which we know is socialist destruction. They're trying to tell you things like government knows how to run your life better than you do. It's sad. They're trying to take over our schools with critical race theory. They're trying to take over our schools with things like, besides critical race theory, saying that we're a socialist country and indoctrinate our children. And I know we're glad to have led that charge this past session and ban critical race theory from being taught in our public schools. They're trying to eliminate our jobs with getting rid of the oil and gas industry, with vaccine mandates, and also with out-of-control inflation. And I have run towards the toughest of fights. The first bill that I always file every single session is the one that's the most hated by the liberal Austin lobbyist establishment. That's the ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying. And that is the plug to the Austin swamp. Because your tax dollars, they're being used against you and your conservative values to lobby against things like election integrity, the ban on critical race theory, the ban on a state income tax, and even meaningful property tax relief and reform. And I'll tell you, I got that bill to the floor in 2019, and when it was on the floor, the gallery was lined with taxpayer-funded lobbyists, and they cheered the moment that it didn't pass because 18 Republicans voted no. That is the voice of the Austin swamp, and I am fighting for you in Austin. And we're still paying for this, frankly. The National School Board Association, Texas is a member of that. They recently asked Joe Biden's Attorney General to investigate parents as domestic terrorists under the Patriot Act simply because they care and they want to make their voice heard. It's wrong, it's an unethical practice, and I have the conviction in my heart and the grit to go fight for our shared conservative values in your Texas Senate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to remind the candidates that we have a short 2-minute window for each of your answers, and we'll begin this one with Bob Mitchell. This is your first question, and then we'll go in the same order that you just introduced in responding to this. Over the last several years, small businesses have faced many challenges, including mask mandates, vaccine mandates, supply chain shortages, and even being shut down by the government. If elected, what legislation do you plan to work on to protect businesses from harmful mandates and closures?
Well, I tell you, the state of Texas and Governor Abbott has done a pretty darn good job of pushing back on mandates. I don't think anybody should be mandated, period, for anything. It's a free country. We have our rights, and I just don't think it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to continue to support Governor Abbott on his push toward pushing back on the federal government and all the work that and all the issues they're trying to bring to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bianca.
Well, Bob, we're finally going to have to disagree on something. Actually, I don't really agree with everything that Abbott has done. He shut down our state for way too long. We had to look to Governor DeSantis to be setting the example. And this is Texas. We shouldn't be looking to Florida to find out what they do. It was unacceptable to be shutting down our churches and to be shutting down our businesses. So I think that, one of the things that they've asked me, they said, what is going to be your biggest challenge? My biggest challenge in Austin will be to take away the power from the politicians and bring it back to the people. That's the biggest challenge, because they are making laws and doing things that hinder our livelihood. That is what I plan on bringing to Austin. So I do not actually believe in any kind of regulated mandates, overreach. I don't believe that Governor Abbott made the right decision on shutting down. We were supposed to just have a 6-day closing that turned into almost 2 years. So that's the one thing I just don't agree with. I think that they overreached and overstepped, and it cost us a lot. 35% of our small businesses here in this area were shut down and never reopened. So think about that.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
So I certainly understand a lot about the COVID issue. During here, we treated a group of nursing home patients successfully in Texas City, and we were attacked nationally for that. And so I understand the sort of how the bureaucracy and the national press, I've been attacked certainly more than anyone up here, Washington Post and New York Times and Houston Chronicle, all those outlets came out against us for how we successfully treated those patients. My thought is that if I can be attacked for that, then I believe that anybody can be attacked for anything, especially when we had success. And so I firmly believe that I am in opposition of mandates. I can tell you medically why we should have handled this a lot differently. I believe that remember 2 weeks to stop the spread, and just turned into 2 years. It's devastated small businesses. I believe that what we need to do as a representative republic is we need to trust people to make good decisions for themselves. And when people make those decisions for themselves, I think that we will be safe. I don't believe that especially with this type of virus, I can go over medically why I feel that way. I think it's vitally important that we trust the people. England has just done that. The nation of England has just done that. Just yesterday, I believe Boris Johnson made an announcement that they were going to have no more mandates, no more mask mandates, no more mandates at all. And the reason he said is because we're going to trust the people of England to do what is best. In a representative republic, that is absolutely essential. And I know that the legislature passed legislation. We had a constitutional amendment recently that disallows them from closing churches again. I wholeheartedly applaud that. And I think it's very important that we make sure that we trust our people to do what's best for themselves and their families. And so I'm absolutely in opposition to mandates, and I believe that's on my record as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Middleton.
He just took a bite. Sorry about that. Yeah. Look, small businesses are the backbone of our community, and we do have to let people make their own decisions for themselves. Government should not be telling businesses when they should open and when they should close, and certainly they shouldn't be telling customers that either. And I work closely with Gina. I work closely, James from the Galveston Restaurant Group here somewhere. In the pandemic, we were there fighting to open our bars, which are small businesses too, by the way. I don't even drink, and I spend a lot of time trying to keep bars open, actually. And TABC, I fought against them hard. In fact, they kind of turned into the small business punishment agency. So that's why I filed a bill to abolish them. Literally, they were hassling small businesses every single day. And actually, It was sad because the only way some could stay open was getting their food permit, and some couldn't afford that. So I paid for some local bars to be able to get their food permit with the TABC so they could stay open. They deserve a fighting chance like everybody else. They do. And at the end of the day, we have to make our own decisions because government does not know how to run our lives better than we do. Like I was adamantly opposed to the beaches being closed. That was wrong. That should have never happened. That happened here, unfortunately. And of course, we passed the bill to make sure that churches don't close. I was proud to author that, but we also passed a bill to make sure that government can't mandate vaccine passports. I don't know if y'all saw that, but government cannot implement vaccine passports in the state of Texas. But we need to do more. We need to reform the 1975 Disaster Powers Act, and these are the disaster powers that all levels of executive operate on whenever there's a natural disaster. Of course, we need them for natural disasters, but not these Anthony Fauci made-up modeling disasters, right? I mean, that's what we've gone through. Have we seen the results of bad modeling lately? Yeah, we have. So we need to make sure those are limited, and I authored and co-authored legislation to make sure that those disaster powers are limited to 30 days, and then after that, the legislature needs to come back in session. That was Cody Vasut's bill, and that's what we got to keep fighting for, is our right to make our own decisions in our own lives.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gracia, we will start with you on this next question. We have representatives here today with us with the port. Roger, thank you for being here, and the pilots who, and we see the activity happening with the port, and it's very important to the regional economy and our national economy. The Port of Galveston is a driver of our local economy and on into Houston and beyond. What issues and projects do you see as most important for the port, and what would you do to prioritize their needs, and most importantly, how would you fund them?
So I do believe in infrastructure. I think we need to create jobs. I know that I've been listening to some of the complaints that come out of Galveston. The Port of Houston, obviously, and the Port of Galveston, obviously, is a place where you guys rely on getting supplies in. Actually, you all received ships, didn't you, from the backstock that, or the backlog that was out in California? Didn't they come this direction? So if it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't have had supplies in this country. So I don't believe in, expanding any kind of more spending or taxing people to get things done. I do think that there is a way for us to look at grants. There's a lot of grants out there. Now, again, those grants probably do come from our tax dollars. But what I like to do as a person, obviously, who's had some experience in a small business, is I like to sit in round tables and listen to the experts. I like to find out what their solutions are, because a lot of the times our politicians try to make choices for us and decisions for us, but they don't really even know what they should be doing. They just go and make decisions. I like to bring in people who are the experts and say, what are you experiencing? What are you having to deal with? And how can we help you get your job done more efficiently and effectively? And so that's what true leaders do, is bring people together. I don't try to go solve everybody's problems, because it's not like I would expect you to come solve my problems, So I want to go to you guys who do know and have the experience, and you know what your needs are, and you tell me what it is that I can do and how I can be an advocate for you. That's how I want to represent you. I don't want to be a top-down leader and say, well, I'm just going to do whatever I think that some lobbyist or somebody else tells me to do in government. So that's how I plan on governing.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
So the Port of Galveston is extremely important, not only to Texas, but the United States and the world as well. And so I think it's essential that we make sure that they are supported. You have so many things. So the energy corridor here, all of the oil refineries that we have here. I think it's important that we make sure that we build this coastal barrier to make sure we protect that infrastructure. That's vital to get that done. I think that's essential. I think it's very important to make sure that the funding is always there prepare to make sure that we have the infrastructure. I know we built some we need to create some districts to try to get that coastal barrier built. I think that's extremely important to protect our infrastructure. I think as port issues, I would certainly have to defer to the experts on that as well. We are transporting so much energy and so many goods that are coming through that Galveston and Houston port that the nation would not survive without it. I don't think our energy sector would not survive without it. Our nation would not survive without it. And so I think it's essential that we provide whatever support is needed. And certainly I will schedule meetings with you and talk to you about what your specific needs are. And we'll make sure we champion that. You know, I've got relationships nationally, and I've got relationships also in our state legislature to see that happen, and I plan on doing that. I won't be under the thumb of any politician. I'll be able to represent SD 11 very strongly and very proudly, and so I look forward to doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Port of Galveston is really, truly one of our greatest economic opportunities that we've got here for jobs creation, for getting people to live and work in our community, and it's related to tourism. Obviously, of course, we got the terminal under construction right now, which is a huge victory for Galveston. But I'll tell you some of the really important things that are on our plate. Infrastructure, obviously, we need better dockage. We have a lot of docks that are in bad shape in the Port of Galveston. Pelican Island is one of our most underutilized assets. We have an incredible amount of opportunity there. We know the Port of Galveston owns some land there. Port of Houston owns a lot of it with 1,100 acres. I've been fighting to put that land to work. Putting Pelican Island to work is what we need to do. Also, exciting news, we're going to be able to bring jobs to the Port of Galveston, and that's going to be the dry dock that is coming here from the Bahamas to rehull the battleship Texas. Now, that's state money, over $35 million, and that was going to go out of state. But I work closely with Gulf Copper, with the port, with the foundation to make sure that that happened here, and those maritime jobs, that dry dock came here to Senate District 11 and to the Port of Galveston, and that is critical. And we're going to get to see it here soon, actually. That dry dock will be on its way in not too long. The bridge, too. So we can't develop Pelican Island without the bridge. The state has provided, or is going to provide, $45 million in off-system bridge money to get that done, because if you don't have a bridge, you don't have any commerce on Pelican Island. I've been fighting to make sure that we get that done, and with A&M Galveston, with the port, with TxDOT, and some of our other state leaders to make sure that project is finished. And I think finally we're getting close to that being signed and sealed, where it gets built, it gets done, and I think once that happens, we're able to get more business and commerce and development on Pelican Island finished once that bridge is complete. So we have a lot on our plate, and it's one of our greatest economic opportunities in our community as the Port of Galveston.
Thank you. Bob?
So I will say that is a tough question to answer, but the reality is I'm going to be like Bianca and like Robin. I'm not an expert on all this. There's a lot of different issues, so I would depend on the experts, the people in Galveston that have the issues, that know what the infrastructure needs are, to listen to them, have them come to me, and then let's work on that. But the one way you can fund it, and nobody else has mentioned this yet, for every dollar that we sent to Washington, D.C., about 35 cents comes back to our ports in Houston and Galveston, about 35 cents on a dollar. What we need to do is we need to make sure that about 75% on a dollar, if not 100% on a dollar, comes back to here. They take that money and they split it up and they give it to other ports all across the United States. That's not right. So we got to work with our federal officials to make sure that we get our money back here that our taxpayers send to Washington, D.C. But again, I will have to go back to the experts. I'll have to go to the port, and you tell me what your issues are, what infrastructure projects you need. Then we'll work to get that money back from the federal government to fund it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Armstrong, we'll start with you this time. An issue that's near and dear to the heart of this chamber is appraisal reform. We've had a committee at the chamber working on this for quite a while. We made an overture to the governor to try to add an interim study during the interim session on this, and we've done a number of things related to that. Homeowner and business property tax appraisals have skyrocketed over the past few years. How would you address the need for appraisal reform here in the state of Texas?
You know, I think that this is extremely important. In fact, this is one of my most important issues is property tax reform and appraisal reform. And I believe that certainly, you know, the appraisal rates that are going up increasingly, you know, every year is just it seems to me to be immoral that someone has paid their house off, yet they're basically renting their home from the government as those appraisals go up every year. And so I think that it's vital that we get that under control. I know that certainly the lieutenant governor, I remember when he was a radio talk show host, went to Austin to solve that problem. And it's eluded them for the last few sessions. I mean, they've not been able to get that problem solved. I think I have traditionally been in favor of appraisal caps. I think that is certainly one way that we can prevent the appraisals from going up. We cap it to lower than the 10% that it's at now. And so I think that that's one way that you can deal with the issue. I think that we have to really get folks on board. And in fact, once I'm elected state senator, I have actually thought about this a lot, that's going to be one of the first issues that I go in and try to tackle. And I'm going to do that without any encumbrance, because I'm going to be able to, I'm not getting the support from lobbyists, I'm not getting support from the lieutenant governor, I'm not getting support of any of those guys, and so I'm actually can go in and push, and I don't have to be a state senator. I certainly am happy being a physician, so I don't feel like I'm at fear, I won't be in fear of having a re-election campaign coming up. And so I'm going to go in and tackle that issue because I think it's important. It's a moral issue to me that people ought to, when they own their homes, they ought not have this appraisal creep just going up and causing them to have to pay the government long after they paid for their homes. So very important issue, moral issue to me. I will tackle it on day one.
Thank you. We caught you with food in your mouth again.
This is a critical issue because if you can't afford to live in a community, you don't have a community anymore. And the chamber has led on this. That was actually that appraisal reform bill that we're talking about. That was my bill that I filed, and we actually got it halfway there. We got it passed in the House. And what it would have done de facto would have frozen appraisals. That would have been the de facto outcome of it. And it was estimated to save $3.4 billion per year for taxpayers because your appraisals are going up. When your values go up, if the tax rate doesn't come down, you're paying more in taxes. Your rent to the government is going up every single year, and that's really what it is. You're paying rent to the government. It's unrealized capital gains for your own home, your small businesses. We're all paying this together. This is something we got to do. We've got to do it because it is out of control. Appraisals are rising completely out of control, and I've worked with Gina and our tax assessor, Cheryl Johnson, to push this bill. We're going to continue to push it. I know we keep talking about a special session. We would love to have that on the agenda. I've asked for that to be on the agenda. This is something that's key to our community's success because at the end of the day, you can't own your own home if you can't afford to pay your taxes. I hear that all the time. When I'm knocked on doors, people have to move because they can't afford to live there anymore, and that's wrong. It's wrong. And if you want the big kahuna in this, I did file this as well, and Cheryl has been working on it for years. Price paid for your home is the value. Mm-hmm. That's the big reform that a lot of people aren't talking about. I filed that. Steve Toth filed that. That is the biggest, probably the biggest reform we could do, actually. Besides, the second one, big reform we could do is buying down your school taxes to zero. That is the largest portion of your property tax bill right now. It's over 50%. We have a way to do that. It was Dr. Tom Oliverson's bill. You use state surplus to permanently buy down that school M&O tax until it goes to zero, and you would eliminate the largest portion of your property tax bill. So these are the things I'm going to fight for. I'm always going to fight for the taxpayers because government has no money. It's your money.
Time. Mr. Mitchell.
So let me start by saying that I would support Mays' bill. I think it's a step in the right direction, but the one thing I would say about this is another very, very complicated issue. For people that have been going back to Austin for 20 years, and this being the same topic 20 years over and over and over again, and why it cannot be solved, is a tough question. And it appears to me that in a lot of cases, there's no compromise. when it comes to solving this issue. So what I would say is I would look forward to having the opportunity to work with the experts on this. And again, this is another one of those areas that's experts. It's always good to say, you know, I don't want the value of my house to go up, but until you get ready to sell it, okay? And then what is the value of your house? So again, it's a complicated issue. There's experts out there, but I'd love to have the opportunity to sit down with those experts and try to solve the issue. That it hadn't been solved in 20-plus years, and it needs to be solved. And I think Mays has got a good start. I don't know that that's the final solution. Apparently, it wasn't because it didn't get passed, but it's a starting point. Thank you.
Ms. Gracia.
Actually, one of my other hats, I worked in the mortgage industry. So you know how tough it is to get loans for people, and you tell them they can afford a home, and then you add the taxes in, and it doubles the note. And we see it, and it's been happening. So as a mother who manages our finances, I am number one for eliminating property tax. I know Don Huffines has a plan, and I've read through it, and how to actually eliminate that property tax. And I think about it, and I'm like, you know, as a homeowner, when you get older and you start paying bills and you start getting a mortgage, right, you start to really realize where your money's going. And that's one of our top priority is where we live. So how do we eliminate that? How do we get to a point where we can actually own our own property, really own our property, and not be told by local government that we owe them money or that we have to pay our taxes? Here's the other thing. I'm a homeschool mom, and I'm having to pay school taxes. So my taxes can't even follow my child. And so we've got issues in the state. And he said it best. We've been dealing with these issues for how long now? I want people in office who are problem solvers. So number one, eliminate property taxes. Number two, if we can't even get there, we do have to put caps. And this is the thing, you have to get the state to work with the local government, because obviously our local officials are the ones that are in charge of this appraisal stuff. So we have to we need to stop coming up with laws and telling the big government, telling the little people down here in the local how to do your thing. So here's the thing, we have to work with the local impact is national impact. So we have to work with the local appraisal districts. We have to come up with local laws that eliminate those or get us a cap on how to tax people. That's what I have to say about that.
Thank you. Representative Middleton, we'll start with you. Excuse me, parallel to the issue of appraisal is the issues that we're dealing with here on the Gulf Coast. Representing a senatorial district along the Gulf Coast comes with a unique set of challenges. One of the toughest challenges are windstorms and the insurance related to windstorms. Currently, windstorm insurance is crippling property owners in Galveston. In some instances, windstorm is more costly than the person's mortgage. How would you address windstorm insurance reform?
This is a critical issue because on top of property taxes in your Tier 1 coastal counties, which we're in, Galveston County's in, Brazoria County is in, the number one cost besides property taxes is your windstorm insurance. And it's layered right on top of it. This is a basic affordability issue. This is a basic homeownership rights issue, and they're rising out of control. I was actually appointed by the Speaker to the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association Oversight Board recently. I have been in this fight with this community, with this chamber, and actually, as part of that, we were able for 3 years to stop rate increases with TWIA. We exposed a lot of what they were doing. We were able to hire our own actuary to show that TWIA actually works for the insurance lobby and not us. They're putting the member insurers first and the ratepayers second, and they've done it again and again and again. We got to fire their general manager. He does not represent us. In fact, he told us one time to get back to work to screw over to the Gulf Coast. That's what he said to me one time. And that's how that company is run. It's owned by the state. It's wrong. We actually passed reforms this session, authored reforms that make it harder for them to raise rates. Now they have to have a 2/3 vote, and they can't vote with the vacancy with their coastal positions. So there's a board, and it has certain positions in it, and they were trying to vote with vacancies there. It's wrong. We stopped them from doing that. The two biggest things we can go after right now are their reinsurance and their bonding. That's how they're pushing excess cost onto us. And I actually had a bill that would have lowered our TWIA premiums by $40 million per year. I'm going to continue that fight because it addresses reinsurance. Next session, actually, something else we need to do. We need to move them out of Austin to the Gulf Coast. They don't have any policies in Austin. I think they'll operate differently when their roofs are getting blown off in the next hurricane, right? So let's create jobs here, move TWIA to the Gulf Coast and get that done. We have a lot more reforms to do, but two of the bigger ones are obviously addressing reinsurance, which is 20% of your premium, and also the bonding. And I'm going to continue that fight for our homeownership and basic private property rights against out-of-control Windstorm.
Mr. Mitchell.
Well, I tell you what, another tough question that for 20 years hasn't been solved in Austin, okay? It's unfortunate that we can't get the regular insurance companies to compete in this field, but it's a very unique situation trying to do windstorm insurance along the Gulf Coast. I think if we could, as May said, get them to come down here and understand what it's like to live in this. Our biggest battle is with everybody that's north of Houston, all the way to the Panhandle, that doesn't understand the windstorm issues. I wish there was a way that we could convince them to understand what we have to deal with. They deal with tornadoes, okay? They got regular insurance companies that support them on that type of damage. It's another one of those issues like the valuation of your homes. It's a problem that just hasn't been solved, and I think, again, it's sitting down at the table and working and compromising on some issues, and that's what I would work to do. I would try to get people together, quit trying to fight them from the north and the south and say, compare, their tornadoes to our wind, but that's the reality of it. It's a matter of sitting down and trying to talk through the issues, and I just don't think that's been done. I think people draw the line in the sand and just stop, and we have to stop that. We have to get some individuals up there that understand how to work with each other and compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gracia?
So, I don't know, here's a thought. How about we get with home builders and figure out a way to build a brand new home that doesn't blow our roof off every single time a storm comes through? I mean, that's a solution. We got to look at, options. Not saying that there's, your homes here aren't built the best, but can we not come up with something better as home builders? That creates jobs. That would be one thing that I would like to explore. But I don't, obviously, I don't like that the insurance companies, obviously, because I don't live here in Galveston, but I live in Pasadena. So we have the option to, have extra insurance, but it's very costly, and they're right. You end up having to, if you want to have windstorm, it's almost the same as having a house note. So I think insurance companies are a little out of control, and it is sad that they haven't been competitive. And so we do need to explore different options and solutions in how to solve those problems for you guys, because it's not just Galveston, it's all the coastal bend. Everybody has to deal with this during hurricane season. So, or any kind of, now thunderstorm or any kind of wind, that comes through here, big storms. So, and we've been experiencing it. So we just need to sit down as a community and come up with better solutions. But I don't know, that's just my thought. I'm just a common sense kind of thinker. And to me, I'd say, hey, if we want to build, we can come up with better ways on building and securing our properties so that we don't have to be dealing with this and we can go around the insurance company and our roof doesn't blow off every single time. So again, I'm just a common sense kind of person, and I don't know if that's ever been brought up. So that's just kind of what I think about that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Armstrong.
So I, as a physician, I certainly believe we need insurance reform. I think that's extremely important. I think we have to change the mindset in how we communicate with them as well. So I know that the legislature passed a bill and that would make it a little harder for TWIA to raise their insurance rates. Well, before that bill went into effect, they raised their rate by about 5%. And so they rushed and did it before that bill went into effect. And I think that just communicates kind of the mindset that we're dealing with. You know, I think as an elected official and a state senator, I think that our mindset needs to be on saving money for the taxpayer. It needs to be on saving money for the folks who are the homeowners. I mean, that's important. That's who we serve in these elected positions. I think that's vitally important. And we need to communicate to them. That was completely unacceptable, what they were trying to do in increasing the rate so much a few days before the law went into effect. But it communicates a mindset that I think that is wrong. And as your state senator, I will certainly fight against that. I think that's important, that we have to be there to serve the people, serve the residents, not just make profit. Profit is important, but I think we have to serve our residents first. I think if we do that, then there'll be plenty of profits to be made. And so I think that's very important. TWIA did something wrong there, and I know that Representative Middleton sent a letter out about that, so we appreciate that, but I think that's important. But the legislature needs to fight back as well. The legislature needs to fight for the people as well, and we should have had that reform done long before that, so it wouldn't have been an issue at that point. So insurance reform will be at the top of my list as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, we'll start with you this time. This community, be it say the entire Gulf Coast, was devastated almost 14 years ago when Hurricane Ike came through here. This chamber has been undoubtedly and unwaveringly supportive of coastal storm protection, commonly known as the Ike Dike. What can be done to protect this district from coastal storms? And equally important, how do you support moving forward the process that appears to be stagnated at this point in time?
Biggs, great question. 14 years ago, Bill Merrill came to me and asked me to help him with a concept that he had. Why? Because of, Bob, all the work that you do in Washington, D.C. for the space program, people listen to you. I said, tell me what it is. He told me what it was, and I said, I'm in. And I've been working it every day for the last 14 years. I can't tell you hundreds of speeches I've given, and we have come a long way. When I first started this thing, I was told, Bob, you're wasting your time, and it never happened. Well, it is going to happen, and we're very close. We're going to start our first part of our construction process over in Orange County. We've been working with Senator Cornyn on the WRDA bill to get funding for that in there. The state of Texas put in $300 million this last session. That's helping us as well. So yes, it's been very important. And if you think about it, 27% of the gas is produced right here. 42% of the specialty chemical feedstock is produced right here. That's everything from the rubber on your tires to the coating on your capsules and the ingredients in your TheraFlu. It's all produced right here, the fertilizer. 60% of the jet aviation fuel, 80% of the military-grade aviation fuel is produced right here. It is a national security issue. It is a Galveston issue, and it's an issue that I've been after. We worked 2 sessions to get the Gulf Coast Protection District created. The Gulf Coast Protection District has to be there. It's the non-federal sponsor. We can't receive money from the federal government unless we have a non-federal sponsor. We created that. Mays Middleton stood up in the last session and tried to kill that bill on the last day. If that bill would have been killed, we would have never received one single dime from the federal government to move forward with this. The preliminary design is done. The chief report is done. They're carrying it on to the next piece. So it's extremely important, and I will tell you that we're going to be pushing dirt within the next 4 years on the coastal spine. It's going to be built. We're going to do it in sections. We're going to do the gate first. We build the gate sections that handle 70% of the flood damage.
Thank you. Yeah.
Obviously, I've been reading a lot about the Ike Dike, and I think that's very important to Galveston residents. So I'm supportive if that is what you as a resident in the community think that it's best, and the Corps of Engineers has come up with a plan. And I have to echo with what Bob has said here. He's obviously been working on this project. And if it's going to help the coastal bend and going to help keeping us from flooding or any of the future problems. And I understand what your concern said. You said, listen, it feels like it's stagnant. Well, that's what happens when you let the government control everything, right? It's stagnant instead of us business owners that can go and actually put this to work. And so I think that what Bob said is important, is that you got to keep fighting. You got to keep fighting so that things can actually get done. And so as business leaders, you guys have the voice to make that happen. You shouldn't depend on a politician or anybody who's wants to be a politician to go and fix that problem for you. So as business owners, you are the real advocates for getting these things done. You have to learn to apply the pressure on the people to help you advocate for getting it done. You just, and that's the thing, is that citizens forget that we have the power to make these things happen. So we always depend on others to do it for us. But I think that if with enough pressure on the people, on the right people, then you can get this project moving along very, very quickly. So you just need fighters, that's all.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
So I think this coastal spine is vital to our region. It's vital not only to our region, but it's also vital to the United States of America because we have so many oil refineries and we supply so much of the nation's energy, and hopefully with a different administration will supply the world's energy as well. But I think it's vitally important that we get it done. We've made some headway actually this last legislative session. I know that Senator Taylor worked significantly on that to get these coastal districts set up to where we could start receiving money. And so a lot of headway was made. I know Representative Dennis Paul worked on that as well. I believe he authored the bill, and then also Larry Taylor authored the bill as well. So there was some movement forward taking place. I certainly will champion that as your state senator because I think it's essential. It's a national security issue for me as well because if there's a large, Category 4, Category 5 storm that comes up into Galveston County and it remains that strong, I mean, it could completely wipe out this region, and that would be devastating. I think it's essential that we get that moving, and so and as your state senator, I will fight for that. I'll certainly talk with Senator Taylor about that. I'll certainly get some advice from the major stakeholders and folks who have been working on it for a while who know about that. But it's essential we get that done and that we press forward, and I certainly will champion that.
Thank you. Mace.
The coastal spine is critical to our community. However, it has to be right for us and our unique needs. We've been through that, so I was proud to vote for it. I've always voted for it. I've never been against it. 2 amendments that have talked a lot about. One of them would have been harder for them to raise a property tax. The other one would have stopped them from having taxpayer-funded lobbyists. Those were ultimately taken off. So I was proud to support the bill, make sure it got done. That's one of the last steps the legislature can do. At this point, it really is up to WRDA and the federal government to fund this project and make sure it happens. It's $100 million an hour of commerce going up our Houston ship channel. I know how critical that is. Of course, it's got to be there to protect human life and keep our communities intact. I was with y'all in this fight to make this work for us. The original design was terrible. It tore down everything north of 3005. All of Jamaica Beach, even their city hall was torn down. Their volunteer fire department, Howie Bentley's car dealership, demolished. People on Teichman Road, Terrellin's house probably would have been torn down. But we made our voice heard. I was there with you, and we made it better. And they came up with a new plan that works for us. There's still some fine tuning. We're only 30% in the design phase, so anything else you see, we still have a chance to make this even better for us, like with the ring levy, which is still an issue. But so at the end of the day, this is protect human life, protect business. Because I am in the oil and gas business, and I know America's energy independence is right here in the Gulf Coast and right here on the Houston Ship Channel and Galveston Bay. And we've got to protect that because that is our future. Those are high-paying careers, high-paying jobs. Those are people's families. This is important. So I've always supported it, and I'm proud to continue to do so.
Thank you. Ms. Gracia, we'll start with you on this question. And I will say that these questions are with predetermined order, and we drew names, so it's all random in terms of who gets what at what time. What specific steps would you take to work with other Texas legislators to address the border crisis that we face now?
I love that one. Oh, that's my good question. So it is no secret that I'm an advocate for border security. As president of Latinos for Trump, people ask, Why is it that the Latino vote came out for Trump? Because we wanted border security. He understood our communities. So 70%, 78% of our Border Patrol, can y'all hear me? Okay. 78% of our Border Patrol are Hispanic. 34% of our armed forces are Hispanic. They're the front line of this national security crisis. So listen, the politicians, honestly, do not want me in Austin. They do not, because I really want to close the border down, okay? And listen, I understand there's no one more qualified on this issue than me, because I am telling you right now that our politicians tell you that they've secured the border. They tell you that they've done all these things, sent money down there. But let me tell you something. There's 3 million illegals that have come in already. Ask yourself, how is the border secure? Second of all, you know that here in Galveston County, you have over 800 unaccompanied minors right now. Who's going to flip the bill for them? We are. Your taxes are. You got to send them to school, and now you got to provide medical for them. That means that our border is not secure. So let me tell you something. There's one thing that you guys can do. You're going to have to elect a Latina like me who's strong on the border, that goes up against those Democrats and stops this rhetoric about finishing the wall. Because that is what our border security wants. That is what the border agents have asked for. That is what Trump was giving it to them. He was listening to what their needs were to secure this country. And this new administration came in and took it all away. But at the end of the day, this is Texas, and our own governor, after 32 sheriffs asked him to go and use the Texas Constitution, Article 1, because we were being invaded at the border, and he refused to do anything about it. This is my passion right here, is the border. So I plan on being a very strong advocate for border security.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
So I don't believe that you can have a nation if you don't have a secure border. I think that's going to be absolutely essential. What I would do is I would certainly propose legislation to make sure we finish the border wall. I think we need to start working on that even faster than we are now. I would actually use Texas funds to do that. I think part of that's happening now. I think that has to speed up. I believe that we're taxing our border sheriffs too much right now. Our DPS should not be at the border. We should send our National Guard to the border to make sure we seal that off. You know, listen, there's so many things that happen. Our Hispanic and my wife is a first generation Mexican here, and so we know this. The Hispanic communities are the most adversely affected by what's happening on the border right now. It's those border cities that are adversely affected. The border cities are seeing the crime, they're seeing the sex trafficking, they're seeing all the things, the residual negative things that you see. We have an opioid crisis in this country right now, and so with that's flowing over this Texas border. One thing I would say that is vitally important is that you know, look, we can't depend on Arizona, California, whatever they do with their border is their deal. But in Texas, we have to secure our border. We have to close our border. And then we could get things in order to where we could make sure we have a more orderly process. And so that's absolutely first on my list as well, because we just have to secure the border. It's an issue where you can't be a nation without a border. And Texas needs to secure ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys.
Well, I know one thing we can start with: finish Trump's wall. You know, I keep knocking on doors and I keep hearing border security. We need to secure the border because border security is national security, period. You know, I've got property 8 miles from Mexico, and we actually had a tool pusher on a rig early one morning. He got surrounded by illegal immigrants and was able to get in his truck and lock it. I called Border Patrol, and they were gone by the time they got there. And they said, well, we can't do anything. We're overwhelmed. We need to continue to surge the Texas National Guard at the border. There are 10,000 there right now. We need to continue with that. We also need to make sure that we continue with the magistrates and DPS funding. So what that means is, look, these are small rural counties, right? So we need to be able to charge and process illegal immigrants for criminal trespass. And that's what you do with that $2 billion that we allocated to DPS. and other non-wall-related expenditures in the state. And I was proud to author that bill to triple border security funding in Texas. We need to keep that up and make sure that that happens and escalate that, because at the end of the day, that's one of the most important tools for the state of Texas is that ability to charge people that come over the border illegally with criminal trespass. This is a duty we have, not just to our state, but to our nation. We should all be mad that is our money being spent on this. We should all be mad about that, because that could go to property tax relief, that could go somewhere else. But this is national security, and if not us, who? It has to be us.
Thank you. So I said something good about Abbott a few minutes ago. Now I'm going to just say something bad about Abbott and really our legislature. That session started, that should have been the #1 priority. We all knew that Biden was going to change the game. We all knew it, but we sat back and talked about it and didn't respond to it. We should have sent the National Guard down there 5 days after Biden took office. We knew what was going to happen. We didn't do that. We didn't act quick enough, and we didn't act strong enough. Say what you want to, but let me tell you something. That material that's laying on the ground out there, we paid for that. And for the federal government to sit there and not let us use that, we're Texans. We go take it. It's ours. We paid for it. We should have done it. I'm serious. I'm not joking about it. It just aggravates the hell out of me that we did not be more aggressive in taking charge of that border. And we could have and we should have. We did not act quick enough. We got overrun. And now we're paying the price for it. Border security is #1 for me. It always has been and always will. Next time we need to act a little quicker. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong, we'll start with you this time. Please tell us your priorities on PK public education, including both independent school districts and public charter schools. What are your priorities for PK-12 education?
So I think education is a huge issue. It's a civil rights issue of today, I believe. And so we have to make sure that our local school districts certainly have the resources they need to make sure that they can function well and do a good job. We have to make sure that we have tests that they are performing well. And then if they're not performing well, then we need to have opportunities for people to opt out of those schools. I mean, you should not be confined to a school based on your zip code. If you are in a failing school, then I believe that you should have an option to go to a charter school or a private school. And I believe that there are opportunities to have that taxpayer funding follow that family member, follow that student. And so I think that that's essential. I think it's important that we focus on we can't abandon our public schools because that's the big player right now. They're educating most of our students. But I think it's essential that we have folks I went to Lamarck High School, and they've had a lot of issues here lately. And so I think it's important that those students have the opportunities to be educated and not only education in the academics, but also education as far as skills and job skills and things of that nature that are important that we make sure that folks have, where they can go and be a welder. Not everyone's going to go to college, and so they need to have education to go into welding school, to go into our great junior colleges that we have here in the district. And so I think those are opportunities that we need to expand for people to make sure that folks have lots of different opportunities to get into well-paying jobs and make use of those skill jobs that are out there now. We have a lot of folks that need employees, and they don't have them because they don't have the skills. And so we have to build up a very skilled society and make sure that we're educating them. So if they want to go to college, they have those opportunities.
Thank you. Mr. Middleton?
I talk a lot about equality of opportunity, and you don't get there without education. I'm a huge supporter of our public schools. Moody Early Childhood Center here on the island does an amazing job. They're actually an in-district charter, and they were, I think, one of the first. I know they were one of the earliest in that. But, how do we get there where our founders intended without the tools that people need to succeed? And you do that through education, right? Education is there to provide people those tools in order to provide for their family and have that opportunity to succeed in life, right? So our charters are a critical role in that. I trust the moms and dads in our community to make their best decisions for themselves, and charters are a critical role in that. Actually, I have one bill we got done for them this session that was critically important, I authored, and it allows Odyssey, for example, to not have to pay property taxes on their leased building, and I think that's saving you all $127,000 a year, so that's money going in the classroom. But we need to do more than that. So, very touching story that broke my heart, Yes Prep Southside. It's on 610, and it was a grandmother, African-American grandmother, and she had two grandsons that she was raising. She said one won the lottery to get into the charter school. She said he's doing great, his future is going to be good. The other one did not, and she said, I think he's on a path to go to jail. That is wrong, that is immoral. We should not be doing that in Texas. We owe that to the next generation to make sure that everyone has that equality of opportunity and that money can follow the child to where the parent deems best. So we need to remove the cap on charter schools. Right now, there are 55,000 kids on charter school wait lists. That's wrong. We need to undo that cap and make sure anyone that wants to go can go. And I hear like even Mainland and Lamarck said, don't take this from us. There's a movement to shut down charter schools. It's wrong. We need to make sure that parents have more tools on the table for their children and not less. And that's why it's so important to provide those educational opportunities.
Mr. Mitchell.
So my job is economic development. In economic development, the most important thing is to prove to a company that wants to move here or expand their operations here is that you can supply them a pipeline of students and workers for the future. That has always been a priority at Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership. A couple of examples. Dr. Bowen Lofton came to me back when he was here at A&M in Galveston and said, Bob, we got a maritime shortage of workers, and it's not just people working on ships. It's all range of work efforts. We need to try to get the maritime curriculum in the schools, the ISDs. He said, I've been talking till I'm blue in the face. I can't get nobody to listen to me. Can you help me? I said, absolutely. Set up a meeting with Dr. Lofton with Pasadena Independent School District. Make a very long story short, when we sat down in that meeting, he had every high school principal and counselor in that room. Kirk Lewis did. 6 months later, they were traveling to the East Coast and the West Coast to look at the academies that they were having. 6 months after that, the curriculum, maritime curriculum, was implemented in Pasadena Independent School District. Today, it's in 5 different school districts, including HISD, in Dickinson and LaPorte. You have to put in programs to get those workers and those people eligible. Our ISDs, I'm proud of our ISDs. I think they could always improve. Charter schools, they're here to stay. I think charter schools does provide students that opportunities that our ISDs don't. I agree. If an ISD is not performing, that child should not have to be stuck there and not getting the education that they need. So again, education is, from an economic development standpoint, is the most important thing there is to be successful in bringing businesses to Texas.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia.
Actually, I like this question. One of the other many hats I've worn, I've been a school teacher, 4th and 5th grade. So one of the biggest frustration for teachers is that we're not letting them teach. You're now letting the government give them a standardized test, and the teachers are under pressure, the students are under pressure. My own son used to break out from hives thinking about just a test. We've moved away from actually teaching our kids actual science, history, math, and English. Most of our kids can't even write. Some of them can't even read. So there is a very broken system in the education system. So that's why I am obviously a very strong proponent of school choice, because I am a homeschooling mother. But I was there. I was a PTO president as well. So I understand school. This is the other thing. I really think that we need to kind of defund the TEA, because they are over-regulating everything that is going on in our schools. Guys, this should not be complicated. This should be a very simple task. It's very simple. You need to give teachers back the power to teach, actually teach, because they spend probably 70-80% of their time filling out paperwork. That's what I had to do when I was a teacher, and it drove me nuts. I'm like, I'm spending so much time doing paperwork that the government and their ISD tells me to do instead of actually teaching the kids. So us as teachers couldn't really produce great students. because the government was telling us that we had to check all these boxes. So we've gone away from just basic things. This is what we need to do, is we need to take away a lot of the power from the TEA. We need to give things back to the teachers. We need to stop letting these ISDs put in curriculums that should not be taught in schools. You should not be teaching kindergartners about masturbation. You should not be teaching our kids about the LGBTQ or any other thing. That is not education, guys. It's simple. English, math, science, and just, the basics. We've got to do better in our school systems.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure the candidates will be happy with this. We are down to question number 8, our final question. And the pain will be over soon. And we will start with you, Mr. Middleton, on this final question. This island community is blessed with not only a quality community college, but the home of a campus of both the A&M system and the UT system. Community colleges are very important in this district. If elected, how will you help grow their role in education? And as a follow-up to that, what are you going to do to help UTMB grow in their mission and TAMUG grow in their mission?
Actually, I was just talking to Dr. Raymer yesterday about that, but I'll address community colleges first. That is vital to the success of our community because that is doing more with less. We know we've got several great community colleges within Senate District 11, actually. And, at the end of the day, this is about the tools that people need to succeed and make a living and feed their family and stay here, too. We don't want to export people, we don't want people moving away to College Station or Austin or wherever. We want to keep them here. So I think one of the key things in that with our community colleges moving forward is allowing them to teach any 4-year degree that they want, because they can't right now. So I was proud to author the bill that expanded that from 3 to 5 degrees, because before this session it was 3 degrees they could teach, 4 degrees. Now it's 5. It needs to be whatever they want. They should be able to teach whatever they want. I think it's ridiculous that the state has artificially limited that, and we know how successful the nursing program has been at Galveston College. We need to do more of that. And with A&M Galveston, I've been working with them closely also on the bridge issue because the school won't exist if we don't get that bridge done. I mean, that's the number one thing we got to get done first, immediately, to make sure we preserve the integrity of the campus. But Colonel Fossum and I have worked closely this past session as well. He's been a huge advocate for A&M, and Dr. Raymer has done a great job at UTMB as well, and we need to continue to build on those successes, and I know they have an exciting building program ahead as well, UTMB does, and they're leading the charge on understanding the long-term effects of COVID too. That's one of UTMB's top goals, and he gave me an exciting update on that yesterday. So I'm going to continue to support them in their mission to educate our future generations. We got the dock done, too, for A&M Galveston this past session. They were maybe going to have to do a bond for it, and we were able to avoid that and get the funding done for their new ship that they're getting at A&M Galveston. I was proud to support that.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, sir. So, unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to work with Galveston Community College. But all they have to do is ask. If you talk to College of the Mainland and San Jacinto College, they come to me all the time about new initiatives. Most recently, we've created the Edge Center at San Jacinto College, where we're doing advanced manufacturing, robotics, composites, electrical training for the aerospace industry. We just kicked that off. We're partnering with Rice, University of Houston, Texas Southern University to build a campus at the spaceport that will focus on education and workforce training. I'd love to work with Galveston Community College. I've worked, like I said, with the College of the Mainland. Have been working with Mike Fossum over at Texas A&M on the ship. I've been working on that project for 7 years to get federal funding to help. General McLean really is the one that carried the ball on that. I've helped him with that. All you have to do is ask. It's important for me to support this region, and I'm here to help. And everybody will tell you when they come to me with an issue that they need help on, they get it. So thank you.
Thank you.
So as I just spoke, that the school system is kind of broken. So how are we going to graduate kids from high school and then try to put them in a community program? But here's the thing, we need to work with our business leaders. You guys, if we can come up with programs and come up with trade school, because if those kids that we're just graduating just to push them out of high school, we've got to make them productive citizens. And if the community college is the only place for them to go, but we got to work with our business leaders in the community that we can come up with some kind of system where they can actually work but go to school at the same time, but make it affordable for those that can't go to college. Because those kids are going to be the ones that are going to be producing and pouring back into this community. So we've got to create initiatives that are common sense initiatives that are going to produce productive citizens, that are going to teach them and train them how to do just the basic skills of things that we can put to work here in our community so that they don't have to go away. And instead of turning to drugs or ending up in jail or anywhere else, we've got to work with the local colleges and our business owners and create initiatives that are going to produce productive citizens for our community so that we can do better for our community.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
I think that we need to do everything that we can to make our community colleges here and our universities, Texas A&M University and also UTMB, very attractive places for people to go. I think we need to really, really celebrate them, get them the funding that they need to be a very attractive place for students to come, because, you know, wherever these students get educated and where they learn is where oftentimes they'll stay, you know, and they'll live their lives there. Great nursing. I've known Dr. Raymer for over 20 years now. He's a great, he's a homeboy as well. I mean, he was actually my pediatrician, so that's kind of interesting. but he's a great guy. I was so happy when they chose him as the president. I mean, he was interim for a while, but he's done a great job as president. Look forward to working with him. I'm a alumnus from UTMB, University of Texas Medical Branch, and also did my residency there, so I know it very well. I think it's important that we make these community colleges stronger and make sure that they offer a broad range of studies for folks to go to supply all the skills that people can get a good job. We need to work with our business leaders as well to see what their needs are. What are the needs in the business community? What are the educational needs in the business community, so we can go and support those community colleges, support those universities that are here to supply those educational needs and make sure they're being supplied, so that when those folks are done with their education, with their schooling, then they can move into those jobs and have a career here and raise their families here. That's essential. Education is key. My dad was on the school board for many years. My mom taught for 35 years. And so education is vitally important to this region and to the success of this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank each of the candidates for twofold. Number one, staying on time, which is always good, but most importantly, for addressing the questions that were presented to you. We thank you very much. Now we come to the last statement in our process, a 2-minute closing statement for each one of you. If it's okay, 2 is okay, or we can do 3. We told 3, you can have 3.
I'm going to do it to 2 because I got 2 minutes.
You got it.
So I've learned in the first couple of forums that I've got involved in that I get a little carried away with my comments, and I don't get to some of the points that I want to do, so I had to structure it a little bit, so bear with me on that. First of all, thank y'all. I can't thank you enough for putting this on. I think it was a great forum. The questions were great, tough, but great. You know, we've all got a vested interest in this community. All of us do. And it shows by y'all being out here and supporting us. If you take a look at this region has nearly 1/3 of the population in the state of Texas. 1/3. Our counties account for, also a quarter of the people live here, and 1/3 of the GDP is right out of this region, okay? This region means a lot to the state of Texas, and the great people are part of it. I want to work with and for every one of those groups since I've been in this job, and it's been a pleasure. I want to say that yesterday I released a press release that I've got 9 mayors that have endorsed me for this position. That's pretty powerful. This morning on the way over here, I got my 10th mayor to endorse me for this position. They know me. They know how I work. I hope you know me. and I do want to be your next senator. I think I'm the most qualified to fill that position, so I look forward to your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gracia.
So thank you so much for hosting us and for listening to our message. I'm just a common sense kind of person. And my message to you as business owners here in our region is you have the opportunity to change and make history in SD11 by electing someone who is out of the norm, but who will go and fight for you every step of the way. I don't want to be a career politician. In fact, I actually said when we were touring South Texas, turning out the Hispanic vote, I told my campaign manager, remind me to never run for office. And yet here I am, because Texas is too important to us. We have too many things on the line right now, and we do not need people who are going to follow in line with the system. You need fighters. You need people that are going to think outside the box. You need people who are solution-driven problem solvers, that are not going to just give you a bunch of verbiage. Listen, I don't want to go and make friends in Austin. I will work with my colleagues, but I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to handle business. I'm there to handle your business, and I'm there to advocate for getting things done for our SD11. That's all I want to do. It's common sense solutions. We do not need to be complicating them. I am tough on the border, and I am very tough on election integrity. For most of you that do not know, I have a case sitting at the Supreme Court right now with Justice Scalia and Justice Alito and Justice Clarence Thomas, asking for an election redo of the 2020 election based on civil rights violations. I am fighting for you, whether you know it or not, whether you've heard of my name or not. You can Google me, and Mr. Armstrong thinks that he's the one that's been hit the most, and he has, for being a frontline doctor. But let me tell you something. As a Hispanic, I've been called a Nazi, a white supremacist. I've been called every name under the book for standing up for conservative principles and values. I didn't have to compromise anything that I believed in to preach to the Hispanic community on why they should vote conservatively. I didn't have to compromise. We didn't have to go and tell people, hey, we're going to give you DACA and amnesty. In fact, my organization is very much against amnesty and citizenship. I'm open to visas or work permits, but I am not about to give our country up to illegal aliens. I'm sorry, I do not call them illegal immigrants. They are illegal aliens per our Constitution. I am very tough on every issue. I am a pro-life, I'm a Second Amendment, I want border security, I'm very much for election integrity. You can see all of that. Medical freedoms is very important to me. I think us as individuals have the right to decide for ourselves. We don't need government officials or a government to tell us what we can and cannot do. I think we are responsible people. I think we have the best state of Texas, and I think we need to save Texas. And this is why I'm asking for you to share my message and to vote outside the norm and vote and make history in SD11 and send a true warrior and a champion to fight for you and this community.
Time. Dr. Armstrong.
I want to thank you all for having us today. My name is Dr. Robin Armstrong. I'd love to have your vote for state senate. And so it's an honor to be here. I have moved in leadership in any position I've ever had throughout my life. I've started my own business, built my own business up to from 2 physicians to 20 physicians. I've been risen into leadership in politics by serving at the local level first. I've been in leadership in my spiritual background as well. I think it's important that you all elect a servant leader, someone who is going to be here fighting for you. I've lived here all my life. My grandfather's buried in the district. My grandmother's buried in the district. My father's buried in the district. I mean, I have roots in this district. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here. Just like I tell the folks in the hospital, I was here first, and so I'm going to be here when you're long gone. And so in that same way, I plan on being here for you. I'm going to fight for this district, fight for everything this district needs. I'm going to serve with honor. I'm going to serve with integrity, and I'm going to do the right thing, just like I've done in a nursing facility that got me attacked nationally. I'm going to do the right thing for this district. And so I am so honored to be here talking to you today. And so whatever happens, I will continue to serve you. But I think I'm going to be your next state senator. So thank you very much, and God bless you. It's an honor to be here with you this evening. this afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Middleton.
Well, thank you, Gina and the Chamber, for putting this on today. You always do such great work with community engagement and putting on events like this. I know it's a lot of work, and y'all work way overtime. I got to talk to you earlier this morning about how early I had to get going with this, and then the Gillies event, which is that next week, I think?
Next Saturday.
Yeah, next week. You know, I don't think it's any secret, but Texas is under attack, and we cannot wait 1 minute. Our families can't wait 1 minute. Our communities can't wait 1 minute for us to fight back, and not 97%, not 98, not 99, 100%. And we have to elect leaders that will go towards the toughest of fights. And I have that proven conservative record. I've been fighting Joe Biden's policies and unconstitutional mandates that are hurting Texans. And that federal overreach, that's one of our greatest threats right now. And speaking of threats, the border, we know border security is national security, period. We have to continue that fight. Proud to have co-authored the bill that triples border security funding. Texas is now spending more than all the other border states combined. And our ideology is under threat. Critical race theory, that's a dangerous left-wing indoctrination. I'm proud to have authored that bill that bans critical race theory from being taught in our schools. It's actually the opposite of what Dr. Martin Luther King said, which is we're judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. And unfortunately, that ideology says the opposite of that. It says our Constitution, the form of our republic, is fundamentally racist. It's wrong, it's unchristian, it has no place in our schools. And speaking of our beliefs, pro-life. I'm 100% pro-life. I'm proud to have authored the Texas Heartbeat Bill, which is saving 130 innocent lives every single day. It's saved 15,000 so far. I've gotten death threats over that bill, and Texas is the first and the only state to actually have that go into effect. And I'll tell you something else the left has forgotten. That government has no money. It's all your money. And that's why it was so important to pass the constitutional amendment that banned a state income tax in the state of Texas to make sure we're never like New York and California. I was proud to co-author that, and you won't be surprised, but the Democrats by and large voted no on that. And from day one, I have led the charge to stop politicians from profiting off of their position. This is your money. Government has no money. It's wrong, it's unethical, and one of my top bills in that is stopping legislators from becoming lobbyists after they leave office. And you know, as it says in our Declaration of Independence, we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights because our rights are from God. They are not from government. But it is up to us to fight back and protect those God-granted rights. And I am that proven conservative fighter for us, for our Christian values, and for Texas to go help take this country back. I would be honored and humbled to have your support and your vote in this race. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our four candidates, give them a round of applause. I'd like to again thank each of you for being here, for your candid nature, for your well thought out answers, and again, for your willingness to go out there and be a part of the political process that impacts our community. Again, I'd like to thank I-45 Now, TJ Alls and his group. If you want to see yourself on TV, please, at 6 o'clock tonight, we'll be sending this out to literally thousands of individuals so they can watch these tapes so that your message goes beyond what happens in this room.